When I got pregnant, I decided to throw a huge baby shower. Everyone turned up and we all decided to try a lottery ticket, and I won a $150,000 lottery. Everyone congratulated me and left, and that's when my mother-in-law demanded I hand over the money to her. When I refused, my husband slapped me hard across the face. I stumbled, my pregnant belly hit the sharp edge of the table, and my water broke. My sister-in-law started filming, smiling with excitement. They threw me out. So I went to my parents' house and told them everything, and they said, "It's too much money for you, just hand it over to us, plus you have a sister in need." When I refused, that's when my sister grabbed a steel bar and hit my belly. I lost consciousness. By the time I woke up, my ticket was gone and I was in the middle of nowhere. So what I did next left everyone in fear. The baby shower had been my idea from the start. At 7 months pregnant with my first child, I wanted to celebrate with the people who mattered most. Or at least, the people I thought mattered most. Looking back now, I can see how naive I was, how blind to the snakes coiled around my life, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. My name is Rebecca Thompson, and this is the story of how I learned that blood doesn't always mean loyalty, and how sometimes the darkest betrayals come from the people who are supposed to love you most. The venue was perfect. We'd rented out the community center in Riverside, decorated it with soft pastels and baby elephants, my chosen theme. 43 guests showed up, more than I'd expected. My husband Marcus stood beside me, his hand occasionally resting on my swollen belly, playing the part of the devoted father-to-be. His mother, Patricia, held court near the gift table, already making comments about how I'd arranged things. My sister-in-law, Vanessa, kept taking photos, her phone constantly raised, capturing every moment with an intensity that should have warned me. My own family sat together on one side. Mom, Dad, and my younger sister Charlotte. Charlotte had been struggling financially for years, always asking for loans she never repaid, always having some crisis that required immediate cash. But she was my sister. Family helps family, right? The games were fun. We played baby bingo, guessed the baby food flavors, measured my belly with ribbon. Everyone laughed and chatted. For a few hours, life felt beautiful and complete. Then came the moment that would split my existence into a clear before and after. Marcus's cousin Tyler suggested we all chip in for lottery tickets. "Come on, it'll be fun," he said. "Everyone puts in $5, we buy a bunch of scratchers, and whatever we win, we split." It seemed harmless enough. 30 people participated, creating a pot of $150. Tyler ran to the gas station down the street and came back with 30 identical tickets. We sat in a circle, everyone scratching away at their silver coating, joking about what they'd do with millions. I borrowed a penny from my purse and slowly worked at the latex covering on mine. The first symbol appeared. Then the second. Then the third. My hands started shaking before my brain fully processed what I was seeing. "Oh my God," I whispered. The room got quieter. "Oh my God, I think I won something." Marcus leaned over my shoulder. "Holy hell. Rebecca, that's $150,000. The room exploded. People screamed, jumped, hugged me. Someone started crying happy tears. For 5 incredible minutes, I felt like the luckiest woman alive, surrounded by people who genuinely celebrated my good fortune. Patricia kissed my cheek. Vanessa hugged me tight. Charlotte grabbed my hands and squeezed them, tears streaming down her face. "You deserve this," she said. "You really do." The party wound down quickly after that. People suddenly remembered appointments, errands, things they needed to do. Within 20 minutes, the community center had emptied except for Marcus, his family, and mine. We were packing up decorations when Patricia's voice cut through the comfortable silence. "Well, Rebecca, you'll give the ticket to me for safekeeping, of course." I turned, confused. "What do you mean?" "The ticket." She extended her hand, palm up, like I was a child being asked to surrender contraband. "You're pregnant, emotional, not thinking clearly. Someone responsible needs to hold on to it until you've had the baby and gotten your hormones under control." A cold feeling spread through my chest. "Patricia, it's my ticket. I won it." "Our money bought it," she countered. Her friendly demeanor had evaporated like morning dew. "Marcus contributed $5 from our joint account. Technically, this is a marital asset." "We all agreed whatever we won would go to whoever scratched the winning ticket," I said slowly. My heart had started pounding. Everyone heard the rules. "Don't be selfish, Rebecca." This came from Marcus. My husband. The man whose child I was carrying. "My mom makes some good points. You've never handled money well. Remember when you overspent at Target last month?" "I bought nursery furniture." "Furniture for our baby." "Exactly," Patricia said smoothly. "You're impulsive. This money needs proper management. Give me the ticket, and we'll set up a trust or something appropriate." I clutched my purse tighter, feeling the ticket inside like a talisman. "No. This is mine. I'm going to put it toward the baby's college fund, maybe pay off my student loans. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. Marcus's palm connected with my cheek with a crack that echoed off the community center walls. The force spun me sideways. I stumbled backward, my pregnant body off balance, unable to catch myself properly. The corner of the gift table rushed toward me, its sharp edge catching me directly in my swollen abdomen. Pain exploded through my body, white-hot and blinding. I felt something give way inside, a terrible pressure releasing. Warm fluid gushed down my legs, soaking through my dress. My water had broken. At 7 months pregnant. Because my husband had hit me. Marcus, I gasped, doubling over. The baby, something's wrong, oh my God, this is perfect. Vanessa's voice cut through my agony. I looked up through tears to see her phone raised, camera pointed directly at me, a smile spreading across her face. This is going to get so many views. Vanessa, what the hell, I started, but Patricia interrupted. You brought this on yourself, Rebecca. All you had to do was cooperate. She turned to Marcus. Get her out of here before she makes more of a mess. This is disgusting. Mom, she's in labor, Marcus said, but his voice held uncertainty, not concern. Then she should go to a hospital, Patricia snapped. Not ruin the furniture in here. We'll lose our deposit. My own mother stepped forward. Finally, I thought. Mom would help. Mom would call an ambulance, would defend me against these monsters. But her face held an expression I'd never seen before. Cold calculation. Rebecca, honey, she said in a voice that dripped false sweetness. Let's go outside and talk. Mom, I need a hospital. In a minute. First, give me the ticket. The world tilted. What? The lottery ticket, sweetheart. That's too much money for someone your age to handle responsibly. Your father and I will manage it for you. We'll make sure it's invested properly. Mom, I'm bleeding, I think something's really wrong with the baby. Drama queen, Charlotte muttered. Always has to be the center of attention. Dad moved closer, his expression stern. Your mother's right, Rebecca. Hand over the ticket. You have a sister who's in need. Charlotte's been struggling, and this money could change her life. Family takes care of family. I'm your family too. I screamed. Pain lanced through my belly again, sharper this time. I'm your daughter, and I'm about to lose your grandchild, and all you care about is money? Don't be dramatic, Mom said. First babies never come this early. You probably just peed yourself. It happens. Give us the ticket, and we'll take you to the doctor if you really think something's wrong. If I think, I couldn't finish. Another contraction hit, this one stealing my breath entirely. Charlotte moved then, walking past me toward the supply closet. Through my pain-fogged vision, I watched her emerge with a steel bar, something left behind by the maintenance crew. She weighed it in her hands experimentally. Charlotte, I gasped. What are you doing? What I should have done years ago. Her face twisted into something ugly, years of jealousy and resentment finally showing through. You always got everything. The perfect grades, the scholarship, the husband, the baby on the way. Well, guess what? This time I'm getting something. She raised the bar. I tried to move, but another contraction froze me in place. The metal connected with my stomach with a sickening thud. Agony exploded through every nerve ending. The world went gray, then black, consciousness fleeing from pain too intense to process. The last thing I heard was Charlotte's voice, triumphant and terrible, got it. The ticket's in her purse. Consciousness returned slowly, reluctantly. My body felt broken, hollowed out, wrong in ways I couldn't immediately define. I tried to open my eyes, but they felt sealed shut, crusted with something I didn't want to identify. My hands moved to my belly instinctively, seeking the familiar swell of life I'd carried for 7 months. They found only softness, emptiness, a terrible absence where my child should have been. A sound escaped my throat, inhuman and raw. My eyes finally opened. Stars overhead. Millions of them, cold and indifferent. I was lying on dirt, surrounded by darkness broken only by moonlight. Trees loomed in every direction. The air smelled of pine and decay. Slowly, agonizingly, I sat up. Everything hurt. My face throbbed where Marcus had struck me. My abdomen screamed with every movement, bruised or broken or both. My thighs were crusted with dried blood. I was still wearing my baby shower dress, now ruined beyond recognition, torn and stained and filthy. My purse was gone. The lottery ticket was gone. My phone was gone. I had nothing except the clothes on my back and a body that might be dying. The baby. Oh God, the baby. I pressed my hands to my deflated stomach, searching desperately for any sign of movement, any flutter or kick that would tell me my child still lived. Nothing. The terrible emptiness inside me felt absolute, final. Either my baby was gone or I'd somehow delivered without remembering, which seemed impossible. No woman forgets giving birth. Terror threatened to overwhelm me. I was alone, injured, in the middle of nowhere, without any way to contact help. They dumped me like garbage, left me to die in the wilderness after stealing everything I had. My family. Marcus's family. The people who were supposed to love me most in the world had tried to murder me for money. No. Not tried. They thought they had succeeded. Nobody survives what they've done to me. Nobody recovers from being beaten while pregnant, then abandoned in the wilderness. They'd left me to die, confident nature would finish what they'd started, that my body would never be found or would be discovered too late for anyone to piece together what had happened. But I wasn't dead. Despite everything, some stubborn core of survival had kept my heart beating, my lungs breathing. Rage began to replace terror, hot and sustaining. They wanted me gone? They wanted my money? They tried to take everything from me, including my child? I would make them regret being born. First, I needed to survive. I staggered to my feet, swaying dangerously, grabbing a tree for support. Every step felt like walking on broken glass, but I forced myself forward. No idea which direction led to civilization, so I simply walked, following the slope downward on the theory that water flows down and humans settle near water. Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. Time had lost meaning. My bare feet bled from rocks and thorns. At some point, I heard running water and changed course toward the sound. A stream, narrow but clear. I collapsed beside it, drinking desperately, washing dried blood from my legs, checking my body for injuries I might have missed. Everything hurt, but nothing seemed immediately life-threatening. The bleeding had stopped. My belly was tender and bruised, but not rigid or distended in ways that would indicate internal hemorrhaging. I'd lost my baby, but somehow my body hadn't given up entirely. Dawn came slowly. In the growing light, I finally recognized where I was. Bear Creek Wilderness, about 30 miles outside Riverside. Marcus and I had hiked here once, early in our relationship. I'd mentioned then how remote it was, how easy it would be to get lost. He'd remembered. Of course he'd remembered. He'd chosen this place specifically, somewhere far enough from civilization that I'd die of exposure before finding help. But now I knew where I was. And knowing meant I could navigate. The parking area was northeast from here, maybe 6 miles. I could make 6 miles. I could make 60 miles if it meant getting revenge. The hike took until mid-afternoon. Every step was agony, but fury kept me moving. By the time I stumbled out of the tree line into the parking area, I looked like something from a horror movie. A minivan was parked there, a young couple unloading hiking gear. The woman saw me first and screamed. "Please," I croaked. "Help me. I need police." They drove me to Riverside General Hospital. The emergency room staff swarmed me immediately, professionals trained to recognize trauma when they saw it. A nurse held my hand while a doctor examined me, asking gentle questions I answered through tears. I was pregnant, I whispered. 7 months. But something happened to my baby. The doctor's face was compassionate but serious. "I'm so sorry, but you're no longer pregnant. Your body shows signs of recent trauma consistent with forced early labor or miscarriage. We need to do an ultrasound to see if there's any retained tissue that needs to be removed." Gone. My baby was truly gone, killed by people who shared my blood and wore rings that matched mine. The grief threatened to drown me, but I held on to the rage like a lifeline, letting it pull me back from the abyss. Time to mourn later. First, I needed to destroy everyone who'd done this. "I want to file a police report," I said. "Multiple assault charges, attempted murder, theft, conspiracy. I can name every person involved." The nurse squeezed my hand. "We've already called the police. They're on their way." Detective Sarah Mitchell took my statement. Mid-40s, sharp eyes that missed nothing, the kind of cop who'd seen too much to be shocked by human cruelty. I told her everything, starting with the baby shower and ending with waking in the wilderness. She recorded every word, her expression growing darker with each detail. "You mentioned Vanessa was filming when you were assaulted," Detective Mitchell said. "Do you know if she posted that video anywhere?" "She said something about views," I recalled. "Like she was planning to put it on social media. That's good for us. If she posted evidence of the assault, we can use it." The detective made notes. "And you're certain about the lottery ticket amount?" $150,000. I checked it 3 times before anyone knew I'd won. "Okay. Here's what happens next. We'll need to examine you, document all injuries, photograph the bruises. It won't be pleasant, but it's necessary for prosecution. Then we'll start making arrests. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? You shouldn't go home." "I don't have a home anymore," I said bitterly. "My husband tried to kill me." "Victim services can set you up in a shelter temporarily," Detective Mitchell said. "You'll be safe there while we work the case. The hospital examination took hours. Photographs of bruises, swabs for DNA evidence, detailed documentation of every injury. The ultrasound confirmed what I already knew in my heart: my baby was gone. The doctor explained that the combination of trauma, the initial impact against the table and then the direct blow from the steel bar, had caused a placental abruption, where the placenta separates from the uterine wall. At 7 months, my body had gone into shock and emergency labor while I was unconscious in the wilderness. Based on the evidence we're seeing, the fetus didn't survive the initial trauma, she said gently, her voice thick with compassion. Your body went through labor and delivery while you were unconscious. Given where you were found and the time elapsed, it's likely that wildlife may have scattered any remains before you regained consciousness. I'm so deeply sorry. The horror of that reality nearly broke me. My baby had been born dead in the woods, alone, while I lay unconscious nearby, and nature had simply reclaimed what was left. The doctor said the trauma from the assault and the blow to my abdomen had directly caused my child's death. Another charge to add to the list. Involuntary manslaughter? Feticide? I didn't know the legal terminology, but Detective Mitchell assured me appropriate charges would be filed. By evening, I was installed in a women's shelter with fresh clothes donated from their supply closet, a room with a lock on the door, and a counselor who promised to help me navigate the legal system. I should have felt safer. Protected. But all I felt was rage and grief warring for dominance in my chest, both emotions so intense they threatened to consume me entirely. The counselor gave me sleeping pills. I didn't take them. Sleep meant vulnerability, and I'd never be vulnerable again. Detective Mitchell called the next morning. We've made arrests. Your husband, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, both parents, and your sister. All in custody. I thought you'd want to know. The lottery ticket, I said. Did you find it? Not yet. But we searched all their homes. Someone has it hidden, and they'll crack eventually. People always do. She paused. There's something else. Vanessa did post the video. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. It went viral before we could get it taken down. 6 million views and counting. I settled in my stomach. People have seen me being attacked? Yes. But Rebecca, this is actually good for your case. The video clearly shows your husband striking you, you falling into the table, your water breaking, and Vanessa continuing to film while commenting excitedly. The sound quality is excellent, so we have everything your mother-in-law said about you being too emotional to handle money. It's devastating evidence. No jury would side with them after watching that. 6 million people had watched the worst moment of my life. The thought made me want to vomit. But Detective Mitchell was right, let the world see their cruelty. Let everyone know what they'd done. What about claiming the lottery prize? I asked. What happens with that? Here's the situation, Detective Mitchell explained. Legally, possession of the physical ticket matters. But we're building a strong case that the ticket was obtained through violence and theft. Once we recover it from evidence, you'll be able to claim it. The Lottery Commission is aware of the situation and won't allow anyone else to claim your winnings. These things take time to process through the courts, but the money will be yours. The preliminary hearings came quickly. I attended every one, dressed in modest clothes borrowed from the shelter, makeup covering the worst of the bruises that remained visible on my face. Marcus looked shocked to see me alive. Patricia looked furious. Vanessa kept trying to catch my eye, as if we were friends who'd had a silly misunderstanding. Charlotte wouldn't look at me at all. My parents sat separately from the others, their lawyer arguing they'd only made a reasonable request for me to share the money and hadn't participated in the actual physical violence. Their defense fell apart when police found text messages between my mother and Patricia, sent while I was unconscious in the wilderness. P. The little bitch wouldn't give up the ticket even after M hit her. M. Did you get it? P. Charlotte took care of it. Problem solved. Nobody will find her where we left her. M. Good. Call me when you're ready to claim the prize. We'll split it 60-40. Evidence doesn't lie. The prosecution had them dead to rights on conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, assault, theft, and about a dozen other charges. The video Vanessa had posted sealed everyone's fate. You could see everything: Marcus's hand connecting with my face in a vicious slap, my pregnant body crashing into the table edge, water and blood soaking my dress, Vanessa laughing while filming my agony. The comments on the video had been overwhelmingly supportive of me. Tens of thousands of people calling for arrests, demanding justice, offering help if I needed it. Some had tracked down Marcus's employer, getting him fired. Others had found Patricia's small business, a boutique gift shop, and review bombed it into bankruptcy. Vanessa lost her job too when her employer saw the video. The court of public opinion had convicted them all before the legal system even started processing charges. I watched it all unfold from the shelter, scrolling through updates on a borrowed tablet, seeing my family's lives implode in real time. It should have felt satisfying. Instead, I felt hollow, scooped out and empty like the shell my body had become. My baby was still dead. The money wouldn't bring my child back. Revenge wouldn't fill the void in my chest. But it would ensure they paid for what they'd done. That had to be enough. The shelter counselor convinced me to see a therapist who specialized in trauma. Dr. Elizabeth Chen was patient and kind, letting me talk or sit in silence depending on what I needed. Slowly, painfully, I began processing what had happened. The betrayal hurt worse than the physical injuries. I'd built my adult life around these people, trusted them completely, and they'd literally tried to murder me for money. Trust is something you can rebuild, Dr. Chen said during one session. But you get to choose who receives that trust going forward. You don't owe anything to people who've proven themselves unworthy. 3 weeks after the arrests, Detective Mitchell called with news. We found the ticket. Your sister had it hidden in her apartment, taped inside a vent. She's agreed to testify against the others in exchange for a reduced sentence. Reduced to what? I asked coldly. 5 years instead of 15. She claims she acted under pressure from your parents, that she didn't mean to hurt you as badly as she did. Her lawyer's pushing the sympathy angle hard. Detective Mitchell's tone suggested she didn't buy it. Prosecution thinks it's worth it to ensure convictions across the board. With Charlotte testifying, we can prove conspiracy and premeditation. Fine, I said, though nothing felt fine. I want that ticket back. You can claim it as soon as the judge releases it from evidence. Probably another week or two. The trial preparations dragged on for months. I moved out of the shelter into a small apartment, using funds from a GoFundMe strangers had started after seeing the viral video. People sent money, clothes, furniture, baby items I couldn't bear to look at. The outpouring of support from strangers felt surreal when my own family had tried to kill me. The apartment became my sanctuary, a place nobody from my previous life knew about. I painted the walls soft gray, hung curtains that blocked out the world when I needed darkness, created a space that belonged only to me. Some mornings I'd wake up forgetting everything that happened, those blessed few seconds before memory crashed back like a wave. Then I'd remember, and the grief would start all over again. Physical recovery took months. My body had been through catastrophic trauma, and healing came in increments so small I sometimes doubted it was happening at all. Physical therapy helped restore my core strength. A nutritionist helped me regain the weight I'd lost during those first terrible weeks when eating felt impossible. Slowly, painfully, my body remembered how to function as something other than a vessel for pain. The hardest part was seeing pregnant women everywhere. The grocery store, the sidewalk, the doctor's office waiting room. Each swollen belly felt like a knife twisting in my chest, a reminder of what I'd lost, what had been stolen from me. Dr. Chen taught me grounding techniques for when the panic attacks hit. 5 things I could see, 4 things I could touch, 3 things I could hear. Sometimes it helped. Sometimes nothing helped except waiting for the storm to pass. Detective Mitchell checked in weekly, updating me on the investigation's progress. They'd found more evidence, text messages, browser histories showing Marcus had researched how to make domestic violence look accidental, financial records proving Patricia had been in debt and desperate for money. Every new piece of evidence made the picture clearer. This hadn't been a moment of passion or poor judgment. They planned it, discussed it, coordinated their actions to steal from me and dispose of my body. Premeditation made everything darker somehow, knowing they'd thought it through and decided murder was acceptable. Finally, 8 months after the baby shower that ruined my life, after the preliminary hearings had concluded and the criminal trials were scheduled, I walked into the Lottery Commission office with Detective Mitchell and a lawyer I hired. The ticket, preserved in an evidence bag, was officially returned to me. I signed the claim forms with hands that shook despite my best efforts at composure. Congratulations, the lottery representative said, seemingly unaware of how hollow that word felt. After taxes, you'll receive a lump sum of approximately $93,000. Would you like the check mailed or directly deposited? Direct deposit, I said. And I want it in an account only I can access. The money hit my account 3 days later. $93,000. People had died for less. My baby had died for this. I stared at the balance on my phone screen, feeling nothing but contempt for everyone who'd valued these numbers more than a human life. But money meant power. Money meant I could disappear if I wanted to, start over somewhere fresh, build a new life far from anyone who'd ever hurt me. Money meant I could attend every court date in professional clothes with a good lawyer beside me, showing the jury I was stable, credible, worthy of justice. The trials were staggered. Marcus and his family went first, facing charges of assault, conspiracy, attempted murder, and involuntary manslaughter for the baby's death. I testified for 3 hours, walking the jury through every moment of that terrible day. When they played Vanessa's video in court, several jurors cried. Marcus's lawyer tried to paint me as greedy, claiming I'd provoked the violence by refusing to share the ticket money. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes before returning guilty verdicts on all counts. Marcus got 20 years. Patricia got 15. Vanessa got 12, with the judge noting that filming someone's assault rather than helping them showed a staggering lack of human empathy. During sentencing, the judge looked directly at Marcus and said, "You struck your pregnant wife with enough force to cause premature labor, resulting in the death of your child." The court finds this among the most heinous acts of domestic violence it has witnessed. My parents' trial came next. Their lawyer fought harder, arguing they'd only asked for money and hadn't directly participated in the physical assault. But Charlotte's testimony destroyed that defense. She described in detail how Mom and Dad had encouraged her to do whatever necessary to get the ticket, how they'd helped dump my unconscious body in the wilderness, how Dad had checked my pulse to make sure I was still alive but not cared enough to call for help. He said if she was breathing, she'd probably make it out on her own, and if she didn't, well, at least we'd have the money, Charlotte testified, tears streaming down her face. Whether they were real tears of remorse or calculated performance, I couldn't tell and didn't care. Mom got 18 years. Dad got 25 because he had a prior assault conviction from decades ago. Charlotte, true to her deal, received 5 years. The judge expressed hope that she'd use her time in prison to reflect on how envy had transformed her into someone capable of trying to murder her own sister. During the sentencing hearing, the judge allowed me to make a victim impact statement. I'd practiced it with Dr. Chen for weeks, trying to distill the enormity of my trauma into words that wouldn't make me break down completely. "I lost my baby because 7 people decided money mattered more than human life," I said, my voice steady despite the tears flowing down my cheeks. "The man I married, who promised to cherish me, hit me hard enough to cause premature labor. My mother, who gave birth to me, cared more about cash than her grandchild's survival. My sister attacked me with a metal bar while I was pregnant and helpless. They left me to die in the woods like an animal they'd finished using. Every day I wake up knowing my child is gone because the people who were supposed to love me most in the world chose violence and greed instead. No sentence will ever be long enough to balance that scale, but I hope they spend every day of their incarceration remembering what they destroyed for money they'll never get to spend." The courtroom was silent when I finished. Several reporters were crying. Even the bailiff looked affected. The judge thanked me for my courage in testifying and assured me that justice had been served. But had it? They'd go to prison, eventually be released, potentially rebuild their lives. My baby was gone forever. That truth would never change, regardless of how many years they served behind bars. The viral video brought unexpected consequences. A literary agent reached out, suggesting I write a book about my experience. "Your story has touched millions," she said. "There's power in sharing trauma, helping other victims feel less alone." I wasn't sure I wanted my pain commodified into entertainment, but Dr. Chen encouraged me to consider it. "You get to control the narrative," she said. "Right now, you're the woman from the viral video. A book would let you be more than that." So I wrote. The words poured out, every detail of the betrayal, the assault, the aftermath. Writing became cathartic, transforming my rage and grief into something tangible I could shape and control. The book, published 18 months after the baby shower, titled The Lottery of Betrayal, Surviving When Family Becomes Fatal. It became a bestseller. Apparently, people couldn't resist stories of spectacular betrayals and survival against impossible odds. The advance and royalties dwarfed my lottery winnings. Suddenly I had real money, the kind that could buy genuine security, therapy, a future. Book tours took me across the country. In every city, women approached me with their own stories of family violence, of partners who'd hurt them, of relatives who'd betrayed them for money or jealousy or simple cruelty. Their faces haunted me, the recognition in their eyes when I described what I'd endured, the way they nodded along as if I was reading from the script of their own lives. Domestic violence wasn't rare or unusual. It was epidemic, hidden behind closed doors and family loyalty and victims too afraid or ashamed to speak up. Media appearances followed. Morning talk shows, podcasts, news segments. Producers loved the dramatic arc: pregnant woman wins lottery, gets attacked by her entire family, survives against impossible odds, builds empire helping other victims. It made good television. But sitting under studio lights answering the same questions repeatedly wore on me. Yes, I was still angry. No, I didn't forgive them. Yes, seeing them go to prison brought some closure. No, it didn't bring my baby back. The interviewers wanted neat conclusions, lessons learned, inspiration wrapped in tragedy. Real life resisted that kind of packaging. I used some of it to start a nonprofit helping pregnant women escape domestic violence. The foundation provided emergency housing, legal assistance, medical care, therapy, everything I'd needed and barely received. We named it Haven's Promise, after the baby I'd lost. If my child couldn't have a future, at least I could help ensure other children did. The work gave me purpose beyond revenge. Every woman we helped felt like a small victory against the cruelty I'd experienced. We saved lives. We broke cycles of abuse. We proved that violence doesn't have to be destiny, that victims can become survivors and then something beyond either label, simply people living full lives despite their scars. 5 years passed. Marcus filed for divorce from prison, claiming irreconcilable differences. I laughed when I received the papers. Irreconcilable differences. What a gentle euphemism for attempted murder. I signed without hesitation, glad to sever the last legal tie binding me to my worst mistake. The foundation grew. We expanded to 3 states, helping hundreds of women annually. I became a public speaker, sharing my story at conferences and fundraisers, using my experience to advocate for stronger domestic violence laws. The viral video that had initially felt like another violation became a tool, undeniable proof of how quickly situations escalate, how violence often comes from supposedly loving family members, how nobody is immune to betrayal. I never remarried. Trust remained difficult, maybe impossible. But I built a life worth living anyway. Good friends who'd proven their loyalty. Meaningful work that helped others. Therapy that slowly chipped away at my trauma responses. Hobbies I enjoyed. Peace I'd fought hard to achieve. Sometimes I still dreamed about that day. I'd feel the slap across my face, the terrible impact of my belly hitting the table edge, the warmth of fluid soaking my dress. I'd wake gasping, hands clutching my flat stomach, grief fresh as ever. Dr. Chen said those dreams might never fully stop. Trauma rewrites the brain, leaves permanent grooves that get triggered by unexpected reminders. But I'd also learned that survival isn't just about enduring. It's about building something meaningful from the rubble of what was destroyed. They'd try to kill me and steal my future. Instead, I'd created a future they couldn't have imagined, one where their cruelty motivated positive change rather than destroying me completely. The day Marcus became eligible for parole, I attended the hearing. He'd served 10 years of his 20-year sentence. He looked older, grayer, smaller somehow. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it brief. This man struck his pregnant wife hard enough to cause the death of their unborn child, then participated in dumping my body in the wilderness to die. He has shown no genuine remorse, only anger at being caught. Releasing him would endanger any woman unfortunate enough to become involved with him. I opposed parole. The board denied his request. He'd be eligible again in 3 years. I'd attend that hearing too, and every one after until his full sentence was served. My presence a reminder that I'd survived, that he hadn't won, that I would never stop fighting to protect others from men like him. Charlotte was released after serving 4 years. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved to another state, changed her name, tried to disappear into anonymity. Good. She could live with what she'd done in whatever obscurity she managed to find. I had no interest in confronting her or hearing apologies I knew would be hollow. My parents would die in prison. At their ages, with their sentences, statistics said neither would survive incarceration long enough to see freedom again. Sometimes I felt guilty for not feeling guilty about that. Shouldn't I mourn? Shouldn't I wish for reconciliation? But every time I tried to find forgiveness in my heart, I remembered my father checking my pulse but leaving me to die, my mother negotiating with Patricia about splitting money stolen from my supposedly dead body. Some betrayals burned too deep for forgiveness to reach. On the 10-year anniversary of the baby shower, I visited a cemetery outside Riverside. No body was buried there. My baby had died in the wilderness, never recovered, but I'd purchased a small memorial stone anyway. Baby Thompson, loved, and remembered. The dates of my pregnancy. Space left deliberately empty where a name should have been, because I'd never gotten far enough along to choose one. I sat by the stone, running my fingers over the carved letters. I made them pay, I whispered. Everyone who hurt us paid. But it doesn't feel like enough. Nothing ever feels like enough, because you're still gone. The wind rustled through trees overhead. Birds sang, indifferent to human suffering. The world kept turning, didn't care about individual tragedies no matter how personally devastating. I tried to build something good from what happened, I continued. The foundation's helping people. I'm helping people. Maybe that's your legacy, even though you never got to be born. Maybe you saved other lives by losing yours. It was a pretty thought. Comforting in its way. But mostly it was just sad, another story of potential destroyed by people who should have protected instead of harmed. My baby should have had a life, a name, birthdays and scraped knees and first days of school. Instead, there was only this stone, this memory, this eternal absence. I stood eventually, brushing grass from my pants. Life continued demanding my attention despite my grief. Foundation paperwork needed reviewing. Speaking engagements needed preparing. New shelters needed opening. The work never stopped, and I was grateful for that. Purpose mattered more than happiness, and helping others created purpose by the bucketful. Driving away from the cemetery, I passed the community center where everything had gone wrong a decade earlier. It looked exactly the same, cheerful and innocent, hosting someone else's celebration. A balloon arch decorated the entrance. Happy people carried gifts inside. Life moving forward for them, oblivious to the tragedy this place represented for me. I didn't stop. Didn't slow down. Just kept driving toward whatever came next, carrying my scars and my memories and my determination to ensure that what happened to me wouldn't happen to others if I could prevent it. They'd wanted to destroy me for money. Instead, they'd created someone who used that money to become their worst nightmare, a survivor who refused to stay silent, who transformed victimhood into advocacy, who made sure the world knew exactly what they'd done and why it mattered. The lottery ticket had been worth $150,000. My life, rebuilt from ashes, had become priceless. Revenge wasn't in their suffering, though they deserved every moment behind bars. Revenge was in my survival, my success, my refusal to let their cruelty define me. Revenge was in every woman we helped escape violence, every life saved that echoed the life I'd lost. They'd try to take everything. I'd made sure they failed. And I'd spend the rest of my life proving that survival isn't just breathing, it's building something so meaningful that the people who tried to destroy you become nothing more than footnotes in a much larger story about resilience, justice, and the surprising strength found in absolute betrayal. That was what I did next that left everyone in fear. Not violence or threats or anything that would make me like them. Instead, I lived well. I helped others. I turned their cruelty into purpose and their greed into generosity. I showed them in the world that some people can't be destroyed, no matter how hard their own families try. And somehow, that victory felt sweeter than any revenge could have been.